My husband, Daniel, travels a lot for work. He's a regional operations director for a tech company, which means he's gone for at least 10 days out of every month. First, I hated it. The empty house, the cold side of the bed, the long silences where his laugh used to be. I tried to pretend I was fine, but something about the silence of the house felt like it echoed too loudly. But then there was Rocky. Rocky wasn't even supposed to be our dog. He was a temporary foster, a big, shaggy German shepherd mix with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. We were only supposed to have him for a weekend while the shelter figured out a more permanent solution. That was 3 years ago. Rocky never left, and I wouldn't let him even if someone tried to take him now. From the start, Rocky attached himself to me. Maybe it was the way I fed him by hand the first night when he was too anxious to eat. Maybe it was the quiet tears I shed on the back porch when Daniel was gone on yet another flight, and Rocky came and laid his big head on my lap like he understood every ache in my heart. I didn't notice it the first few times, but over time it became a ritual. Every time Daniel left for a business trip, Rocky would do the same thing, something that went beyond the instincts of just a pet. Felt almost human. It started the moment Daniel rolled his suitcase to the front door. Rocky would sit in the hallway, alert, watching him. No barking. No whining. Just a solemn stare, like he understood that Daniel's absence meant he needed to step up. And then, the first night Daniel was gone, Rocky would sleep on his side of the bed. Not near it. Not on the floor. Not in the hallway. On it. At first, I laughed and tried to shoo him off. "That's your dad's spot," I'd say playfully. But Rocky wouldn't budge. He'd look at me, eyes gentle, and settle his head on the pillow like he belonged there. Eventually I gave in. And after a while it became comforting. His slow breathing beside me, the way his warmth filled the space that Daniel left behind. But it wasn't just the bed. The routine was always the same. Rocky would follow me everywhere. If I was folding laundry, he'd lay beside the basket. If I was in the kitchen cooking dinner, he'd be under the table. And if I ever stopped moving, just stood there, zoning out, missing my husband, Rocky would come up and nudge my hand until I pet him, like he was reminding me I wasn't alone. One night about a year ago, something happened that I'll never forget. Daniel had flown to Chicago for a 5-day conference. It was one of those weeks where everything felt heavy. Work was stressful, the weather was gloomy, and I was feeling especially isolated. I came home late from work and collapsed on the couch, not bothering to turn on any lights. I just sat there in the dark, exhausted, overwhelmed. I didn't say anything. Didn't make a sound. And yet, Rocky appeared from the hallway like he'd heard me cry out, except I hadn't made a single noise. He walked up, rested his head on my lap, and then gently nudged my hand with his nose. When I didn't move, he climbed up beside me, curled up, and stayed there. We didn't move for an hour. That's when I realized this wasn't just a pet trying to comfort his owner. Rocky was something else. Quiet guardian. An emotional anchor. Somehow he just knew. I started paying attention after that. Every time Daniel packed his bags, Rocky would get a little more alert, a little more protective. He didn't whine or show signs of separation anxiety. He simply shifted his focus entirely to me. If someone came to the door, Rocky was at my side before I even stood up. If I walked outside to check the mailbox, he'd sit at the doorway, watching until I returned. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard a noise in the backyard. I froze in bed, my heart pounding. Rocky was already up. His ears perked. I got up, flicked on the porch light, and saw nothing. But Rocky growled low in his throat, a sound I'd never heard before. He positioned himself between me and the door and didn't relax until I closed the curtains and turned off the light. It was like he knew that without Daniel, he was the one who had to watch over me. But there were softer moments too. On the 3rd day of Daniel's last trip, I sat in the backyard with a cup of tea, watching the clouds roll in. Rocky came out with me and without prompting dropped his favorite toy, a frayed rope, at my feet. I laughed and tossed it, and for the first time in days, I felt joy crack through the loneliness. We played until the sun dipped below the trees and the sky turned pink. Rocky doesn't speak, obviously. But sometimes I think he communicates more clearly than most people I know. When Daniel returned from trips, Rocky would return to normal. He'd sleep at the foot of the bed again, wander the house like usual, nap in the living room. He never seemed jealous. It was like he had a role to play, and once Daniel was home, his job was done. He'd pass the torch back. One night a few weeks ago, Daniel and I were watching a movie. I leaned over and told him something that had been on my mind. Have you ever noticed how Rocky takes care of me when you're gone? Daniel smiled. Of course. That's his thing. I looked at him, surprised. You knew? Daniel nodded. Yeah. I see it every time I leave. He watches you like he's worried. Follows you around. Sleeps on my side. It's like he's trying to fill in for me. I teared up at that. Not from sadness, but from the kind of love that feels too big to hold in your chest. Love from a husband who noticed the same things I did. Love for a dog who didn't just exist in our home, but belonged to our hearts. Now, every time Daniel travels, I don't dread it as much. 'Cause I know Rocky will be there. He'll wait by the door with me when I say goodbye. He'll sleep beside me in the quiet house. He'll remind me to laugh when I forget. He'll listen even when I say nothing. And when Daniel returns, Rocky will stand at the door, tail wagging, mission accomplished. We call them man's best friend. But sometimes they're more than that. Sometimes they're the quiet heroes of our hearts.